Barney Crompton. This is,
I'm Ben Crompton.
I'm from Dubai.
I'm from Abu Dhabi.
You can see it's been a while since we've done this, so welcome back to our year in review of 2022.
Yes, what's happened in UAE real estate, the UAE real estate, in this last year. We're at the end of 2022 now, and we just want to have a chat about what's happened.
What's happened?
I guess what's happened in Abu Dhabi. I think that this year's been marked as, now all of the restrictions from COVID have been lifted. We've got no more Al Hosnap. The masks have been put to one side. Travel's back to normal. A lot of people leaving the country now, so I guess normality has kicked in. Fair to say? Is this normal?
Yeah, I mean, I think restrictions in Abu Dhabi were a lot tighter than they were here. I mean, I kind of have the feeling that our restrictions, other than the masks, were lifted, I guess quite a while ago. And that life didn't really seem to change that much when they decided no more restrictions. But I mean, there's no secret that Dubai did exceptionally well out of COVID. Part of the leadership structure of this city meant that we were quite agile and quite able to take advantage and keep our borders open, and obviously having a very well-known international carrier was very easy for people to come and go from Dubai. And we know a lot of people who quarantined or brought their parents over from the UK and other countries to be here because it was so much more open. And obviously that has had a pretty epic effect on our real estate market, with prices
more
going
open than other bits of the world, you'd say. So what did happen to Dubai? Obviously, you probably had an influx of population.
We had an influx from everywhere, but we also had Expo, which
True.
It's very difficult to understand whether Expo had the effect on the Dubai property market that it was going to because of its timing in COVID. Is it all down to COVID? Is it all down to, or half of it down to Expo? Like to differentiate the effect both of those events have had on the country. And then also, obviously now we've got the World Cup. A lot of people staying here rather than staying in Qatar because of Qatar's limited rooms. But all of it has been something of a perfect storm, and our real estate market has gone from strength to strength. I mean, obviously, as I no doubt crack on about the whole time, I mean, I deal in a slightly different sphere of the market, but from the people that I know that do deal in the more mainstream properties, this year has been a bumper year.
More so than last year?
Yeah, I mean, if the Dubai Land Department records are to be believed, this year outstripped last year by a considerable margin. Let me see if I can find the numbers. You carry on.
Okay, well, let's take a research break there. Abu Dhabi's been, and I think we speak about this almost every time on our little video cast, on our little podcast. Abu Dhabi has been consistent. Dubai has had the price increases. 2022 for Abu Dhabi has, I think, been positive. There's been more sales. There's been more off-plan sales. A lot of people, when looking at a home to buy, so end users, they've kind of seen the light at the end of the tunnel, and they've decided to buy, whereas before they were renting. But prices haven't gone up that much. Not more than 5%, I would say, this year, and similar last year. So it's been very, consistent with Abu Dhabi. But we have, definitely arrested the declines in real estate prices that we saw from 2015. So 2021 kind of bottomed out. 2022, we've had a bit of positive return. And we'll do a video on predictions for 2023 now, but it's certainly slowing down a bit in Abu Dhabi now because of increased interest rates, and that's going to affect certainly end users, less so the off-plan market.
All I can tell you from that very brief interlude is that
research isn't your strong point.
It's not my strong point.
No.
1.42 billion in December this year. 1.42 billion.
Compared to
December last year. Still trying to figure that out.
All right.
Maybe we'll edit this bit out and then I'll come back with some proper
we'll
data.
Put it in the bottom or something like that.
But yes, I mean, the tertiary information that I read in the papers that this year's outstripped last year's. Certainly we've had more record sales in terms of individual transactions. Obviously there was the record that stood for 7 years on the Palm, Chris Boswell. That was then broken by young Conor McKay.
In terms of biggest deals,
biggest transactions, individual transactions.
There was one reported the other day about some land plots being sold by Metropolitan. They're saying that's the biggest
Yeah,
real estate transaction.
yeah. I mean,
But I mean, that's land.
Land
as
is
opposed
different.
to-
Yeah, I mean, we do some land transactions, but not as a general rule of thumb. But so in 1 year we had 280 million. We had
Not to name drop or number drop
603
or
million.
anything like that.
My deal's not in there.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, right.
So
You're talking
no,
about, but
not to name
by
drop.
we, you're saying Dubai.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dubai,
okay. Right, okay. So Dubai's had some big transactions. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, if you just want to be more specific, you could be. That's fine. Abu Dhabi, unfortunately, we don't publicise
Devil's
those
in the
kind of
detail.
numbers because we're so humble.
And you don't have those
like
kind
to
of
brag.
numbers.
And
The
don't
highest
have
value
those kind of
single
numbers.
transaction in
Careful,
Abu Dhabi is probably
careful,
about 20 million.
careful. Yeah. No, we've got some palaces. They
20 million, like I say.
They probably don't get sold very often. But certainly in the investment zones, we don't have as big a ticket as Dubai for sure. And are you seeing any kind of tailing off towards the end of the year with higher interest rates?
A lot of the people that we sell to don't buy through finance. So and
I mean,
if they do,
I mean, maybe not you, but the market.
I'm
Any sign of it slowing
hearing
down?
that there's a bit of a slowdown. I'm hearing that. Last month incrementally people are saying that month on month it's getting slightly slower and slower, but it's to be expected. Whether that's seasonal. Christmas is not usually the busiest time of year. There's definitely going to be a downward pressure on the market because of the interest rates. They've gone from 3 to 4.5%, 5% in some cases.
Right now the best finance you can get is about 5.1, and so we're talking about. But we're in December 2022.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the year, that was 3.25. I think was the best you could get. So that's a marked increase, and that will have downward pressure. What's also going to be interesting to watch is all of these people who got variable rate mortgages because at the time borrowing was so cheap. Logic would dictate that you would get a variable rate mortgage, but who would have seen what has happened happen? So it'll be interesting to see what they do, because if they're locked into a 5-year variable rate mortgage, there's going to be some.
You're talking about predictions for next year, maybe.
Yeah.
But in terms of what's
That's really
happened this year,
isn't
looks
it?
like I was talking to someone today, and reports are maybe prices of he said rents specifically up 25 to 28% this year in Dubai on average. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Bullish.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that much this year.
Yeah, I mean that's actually very difficult for people to manage, right? If you're renting, for your rent to go up that much. I know you've got the rent calculator and things like that. So it's probably
Also, if your landlord is limited by how much he is allowed to increase your rent by, so it's only really if you've been served notice last year, you're moving out this year, where you're really going to feel the pinch and be moving from. To a slightly less prestigious area, let's say.
So do you think that bumps rents up, having the rent calculator? Because let's say you've got 10 villas. If people stay in them, you can only raise them by 5%, no matter what the market does, or 5 or 10% depending on the rent calculator. But if a unit becomes empty, the landlord can charge what he likes, right?
Correct.
For the new rent, right?
Yeah.
So so when the unit becomes empty, that rent in that unit kind of spikes up to, I guess, market. But the other rents are kind of held down because they've got people in them. I wonder if that affects, that pushes rents up more aggressively than they would if people could just raise rents and lower rents according to the market. Maybe that's something that,
It's a good question. I've never really thought about that. But
Too
yeah, I
clever
mean,
for
it's
us.
supply, isn't it?
Yeah, so you've only got that one unit, and people don't want to move out of the other units because they're going to pay a hefty whack in rent. I mean, something that happens when you talk about rent control, which is another video. What happens about rent control is people get trapped in units that are inappropriate for them because they can't move out because they have to stay there. Even if you have 10 kids, you're stuck in a 1-bed because you can't afford the.
That's probably not going to be true in a
10 bed.
market like this, because obviously we're far more peaks and troughs than steady increases, like let's say a rent controlled apartment in New York, where prices predominantly just keep going up. Here, if you've got enough time, you will see that prices will soften. It's very much more cyclical here. But anyway, like you said, it's a story for another market. How has the year been in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, so whilst you were researching, I already went through that.
Meticulous research.
Yes. So, slow and steady as Abu Dhabi always is. Prices and rents are either flat or up a handful of percent, not more than 5%, except in some very specific areas. Yeah.
Flat?
Yeah. Super premium's gone up a lot, maybe 10 to 15%. Yeah, but low and mid-level rents and sale prices, pretty flat.
Why?
Supply and demand, I guess.
Demand?
I guess not. Particularly rent is a pure supply and demand play. I mean, sale prices are supply, demand, and your expectations of future value. But yeah, I guess we haven't had the same influx of population that Dubai had.
We have had a massive. I would love to know the numbers, and that shows how poorly organised I am that I don't know those numbers now. But Dubai
are
is
they made
much
public,
busier.
The numbers?
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I don't see why it would be kept.
But anecdotally, you say
anecdotally,
Dubai's much busier.
It's much busier. The traffic is worse. The malls are busier. I used to anecdotally, if I went to Dubai Mall, I could usually find parking on the 3rd floor. Now I don't even bother. I go straight to the roof because I know there's going to be parking there. That's a secret. Don't tell anyone that's what I do. But yeah, it's impossible to park. So that I would say the population has definitely increased by 30% minimum.
What a confident prediction of an absolutely enormous population increase. That is
minimum.
Staggering. Okay.
No, look, holidaymakers have increased. I think what we're seeing the busyness in Dubai is not from residential increase, increase of residents, but more increase of holidaymakers and
But it must be residents, right? Because if rents and sale prices are going up, the population must have increased.
The only solid information I can give you is holiday rents on the Palm they've put a lot of upward pressure on general rents on the Palm, because holiday rent companies or rental companies are coming in and leasing from landlords long term, and then obviously subleasing it out to holidaymakers. But everybody who brings a house onto the Palm for rent is then renting to one of these short let holiday rental companies. But that is really increasing the prices of rent on the Palm. So if you're a family looking to move into a house on the Palm, you are in direct competition with the short-term let companies, who obviously they have a margin.
Airbnbs.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. The more of the residential stock that gets put to Airbnb, the more tourism takes it up, as opposed to residents take it up.
At a vastly inflated number.
Yeah. But that also then takes the stock up, and then I guess that then pushes rents and sale prices up. Although, how would you tell they're more holiday makers? I'm sure that's probably published. But I think after COVID, a lot of people trying to get on holiday. There's been a lot of that in the last 6 months really. People trying to get out of wherever it was.
I have holiday a holiday let, and the lion's share of the tourism used to be from the UK. And he's the guy who runs mine, a guy called Greg. How's it going, Greg?
Solid name, Greg.
It's a very solid name. He's a very solid chap.
Kev. Dean, all solid names.
He was saying that there's been a huge fall off from tourism from the UK because of the strength of the pound. So that slack is being taken up somewhere. I'd be interested to know. But again, we're digressing. This is supposed to be a look back
year in review.
A look back on 2022.
Yeah.
To be honest, no surprises. 2022 just carried on the year of 2021. I expect to, we'll do another story, another video on what we expect from 2023. I've been Barney Crompton.
I've been Ben Crompton. See you next time.
We've been TwoFatBrokers.
Oh, we have.
Just in time, saved by the bell.